The Minister of Foreign Affairs press conference. Minister Motegi, please.
I have two opening comments. First, a raising of the warning on infectious diseases. Novel coronavirus infections continue to spread, particularly in emerging and developing nations. And the situation continues to require vigilance. As of May the 22nd, more than 5 million cases have been confirmed in 188 countries, with more than 320,000 deaths globally. Against this backdrop, we have taken into account comprehensively factors including cases per 10,000 people. And Japan raises a warning on infectious diseases level to level 3. Avoid all travel for 11 countries. To be more specific, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh in Asia, and Argentina, El Salvador in Latin America, and Kyrgyz and Tajikistan in Europe and Central Asia, and in Middle East and Africa, we are raising to level 3 in Africa for Afghanistan, Ghana, Guinea, and South Africa. So, as a result, level 3 will be applied to a total of 111 countries. Now that the level has been raised, we will coordinate with the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, and other government ministries and agencies based on the discussions at the NSC and Novel Corona Response Headquarters. Border enforcement measures such as adding of regions for immigration denial and enhanced quarantine measures will be implemented. Another point.
About Japanese nationals leaving foreign countries of their repatriation, those who have already left foreign countries or returned to Japan is in total 9,800 people. Those who wish to leave foreign countries or return to Japan, there are 190 people from 25 countries yet. And out of those, about 90 people are scheduled to leave the foreign countries or return to Japan this month. In particular, today, from Nepal, we plan to have about 60 people leaving Nepal through a civil charter flight. That is all from me. Thank you. So any questions? If you have any questions, please mention your name and affiliation after you are appointed. This is Oyapu from Yomiuri Shimbun. About Japan-South Korea relations. In Korea, there are things that unless Japan shows ways of withdrawing the export restrictions, they will consider GSOMIA again. And about the bill of collecting donations about the former civilian workers from the Korean Peninsula. This bill is going to be suspended now, but what do you think of that?
Let me try to respond to your first question. As I have repeatedly said in the past, the review of the implementation of the export control is based on the implementation of the export control, and this is a totally different issue from the Japan-South Korea GSOMIA. In response to your second question on the issue of former civilian workers from the Korean Peninsula, right? I would refrain from comment on the discussions taking place at legislature of a foreign country, but with regards to the issue of former civilian workers from the Korean Peninsula, we will continue to strongly demand swift remedy of its current breach of international law to the government of ROK. Next question. Oyabu-san again. Oyabu, Yomiuri Shimbun. Now, National People's Congress in China. The national defense budget increased by 6.6% over year-on-year. And despite coronavirus spread, it seems that China continues to expand in defense expenditure. What is your take?
About the defense budget of China, not limited only to this year, for a long term, a high rate of increase has continued. So including the defense expenses, China's defense policy and military ability is something that we wish further enhancement of transparency. As a government, we will continue to have strong interest on this subject and keep watching how this will move. And through dialogue and exchange of area of security, we want to approach China to enhance transparency on their defense policy. Next question, please. Kimura from NHK. I have two questions. At the end of this month, at the end of May, the immigration restrictions of stopping the validity of visa will expire. What is your policy after May? And about the infectious diseases warning, am I right understanding that the level was raised with this press conference?
So, first of all, on the warning on infectious disease level, the raising of the level was just implemented just now. Now, in and beyond June, the current border enforcement measures, what will happen to border enforcement measures that we have in place. No final decision has been made as of yet, but in Japan, we are seeing some winding down of the spread, but we still need vigilance in Japan. That is the situation, awareness of the situation in Japan. So we are not in a situation where the border enforcement measures that we have in place can end on the 1st of June. That is unlikely. Next question, please. Right. Mitsurugi Nikkei. National People's Congress in China on Hong Kong. The Hong Kong version of national security law will be discussed under the one country, two systems. Japan has stressed the importance of Hong Kong continuing to prosper stably under one country, two systems. So what is your assessment of the situation in China, and what will be the Japanese response?
The NPC just started today. So I believe detailed discussions will take place going forward. So we will keep watching the situation with interest. And as I have been saying so far, Hong Kong is an important partner for Japan with close economic relations and people-to-people exchange. So under the one country, two systems, we believe it is important for Hong Kong to develop with stability, which is free and open. Any other questions? Yes, please. Oishi from TV Asahi. About the relaxation of immigration restrictions at the committee earlier, you mentioned that businessmen and students and workers and tourists, that will be the phase of the relaxation. Could you tell me the current situation? And in rejecting immigration, will that be, that is being linked with the level warning? So will that going to be relaxed as well?
Well, the lowering of the warning on infectious disease levels and the resumption of travels, it's not that we are looking into such issues in a concrete manner, but in order to proceed, as I said earlier on, we need to see winding down of the spread in Japan. At the same time, we need some additional time to analyze the situation overseas, before we decide it's safe to travel to countries and regions, and we need to take into consideration comprehensively the situation of the spread and medical and healthcare situation, so that we can decide what possible approach we could take. Even when we are to relax immigration restrictions, we won't be able to relax in lump sum fashion. We will have to do this on a step-by-step basis. For example, in the first phase, in the first stage, although nothing has been decided, just to give you an example, we could start with executives, business executives. I suspect that in order to restore the economic activities in Japan, those people will be necessary, and experts and other essential people will be included in the first phase, and this phase will be followed by international students. And I suspect that general people, including tourists, will have to wait for some time. And with regards to the countries, it will be implementing the relaxation step by step, starting with countries where we see winding down. We will not be able to relax for all countries at once, or with warning on infectious disease level 2 countries in the lump sum fashion. And in relaxing these restrictions, it would be desirable if we could mutually relax restrictions, because we are talking about travel of people. In any case, we need some additional time to monitor the situation before we decide and make judgments. Resumption of travel. We will have to look at the matrix of nations and fields, the matrix which consists of matrix of people, field, and nations. Next question. Kim Dong Irvo. Next week, emergency declaration could be lifted in Tokyo and other parts of Japan. For China and ROK, exchanges of business people, relaxation of immigration for business people could be a possibility. Relaxing of the immigration restrictions, do you think it is possible to be lifted with emergency abolishment of the declaration?
No, that's not possible. The next question, please. 二階でフランス朝日新聞。Russia's spokesperson Zaha Rova referred to Japan's diplomatic blue book that is written that it is under the sovereignty, Northern Territories is under the sovereignty of Japan. I think you mentioned at the committee today that Japan's positions remain unchanged. And why is it written this way, and what is your response to the statement made by Russia?
I mean, there are different comments from abroad, and allow me to refrain from commenting on each and every one of these comments coming from abroad. As far as Japanese government is concerned, resolving the attribution issue and concluding the peace treaty will remain our basic policy, and we will continue to be patiently. We will continue to work patiently. I have had repeated discussions with Minister Lavrov in the past, although there are differences in our views, but the joint statement in 1956 should be the basis for us to accelerate the negotiations of peace treaty, and that is the agreement on our leaders level, and that is the consensus that we have, a basic agreement on that. And I believe on that point there is no difference between Russia and Japan. The diplomatic blue book, in a sense, I mean, the international situation evolves over time, and the changes in the international situation should be taken into consideration. And the diplomatic blue book is to give an overview of the Japanese diplomacy in a given year. That is the purpose of the diplomatic blue book. This is to give an overall picture of the Japanese diplomacy, and that, I believe, is the important purpose of the diplomatic blue book. David, the statue of Michelangelo, the head is big, and the left knee is a bit smaller, because people look up this David and genius Michelangelo produced this so that this can look more close, akin to the human being. And whether the question is not whether the head is bigger than the left knee, but the question is whether the statue is realistic enough, real enough, expressing the real human being. Ms. Nikai. On a different note, at the Foreign Affairs Committee of the lower house, as a result of the rejection of immigration, the Korean resident in Japan decided not to come back to Japan, although this person has lost his or her parent. And I know that this is in the portfolio of MOJ, but for humanitarian reasons, you have always been of a stance to allow entry into Japan, unless there are specific special circumstances. When they want to return to Japan for cases where their parents are lost, do you think it is possible to allow re-entry?
I thought that was an additional question about Michelangelo's statue of David. So around special circumstances, yes, at the Ministry of Justice, they're supposed to make the final decision about it as future measures. Of course, as we have been doing so far, humanitarian conservation is necessary. In principle, cases which needs humanitarian conservation, we will be responding to such cases carefully and make the necessary humanitarian considerations. It's not that this is okay in this case and this case is not possible. I'm not in position of talking about it. Any other questions? So the case of Michelangelo, related to that, this morning you mentioned, I think that is an example, but that may represent the overall situation of Japanese diplomacy. And about Japan-Russian relationship, I believe there are changes from last year. But in principle, in substance, what was written last year and this year remains the same. Japan's position is the same, right?
There are two things. For one, a Japanese position on northern territories and the Japanese policy to proceed with peace treaty negotiations remain intact. Meanwhile, how to put together a diplomatic blue book? As I said earlier on, we have to take into consideration the current international situations and annual. This is to give you an overview of the diplomatic activities of Japan in a given year. That is the intent of the diplomatic blue book. Any other questions? And with that, I would like to conclude this regular conference by Minister Motegi. Thank you.